Will I fit in this dress if I spend the next 90 days working on my mental health? Hello, it is week one of my little experiment where I see if working on my mental health alone has any impact on my dress size. So last week I tried on a dress that's from my pre-baby era, and it was the smallest thing I could find in my wardrobe because I just want to set my theory that when we work on our mental health, our happiness is up, our dopamine is up, our coping strategies are up, and therefore we're less likely to engage in our negative coping behaviors. So, binging, snacking on lollies throughout the day, reaching for a glass of wine at night, the more we feel regulated and calm and like we are being proactive on doing things that make us feel happy and well and all of our self care and really building up our toolkit of coping strategies, the less likely we will be to default into. Our more problematic eating, our non hunger eating, and therefore we will probably lose weight as a side effect of that. So by becoming happy, we lose weight as a side effect. And that's a bit of a challenge I've given myself to see, well, does that really work? And so I had to find the smallest dress I had in my wardrobe to try and use as a measurable because I will not weigh myself. Um, yeah, so far, this is week one. Um, the things I've been doing this week are really laying the foundations. So I talk about this with my clients too. If we're going to embark on a journey of change, we can't just go straight from, you know, one thing to the next. Like I have great ideas of things that I think will improve my mental health, but this isn't New Year's resolutions that all have to get, knocked out on January 1st. This is a 12-week kind of journey that I'm on. um, so I wanted to have really good foundations in place. And that for me, my non-negotiables have been getting out for a walk most days. So I'm going to say daily, but life happens. So we have to make space for that. More on that in a minute. My second non-negotiable is incorporating veggies with my meals. So most meals, I'm going to say pretty much every meal, will have something, either a vegetable or something I think is a health addition to the meal that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise had. And my third non negotiable, which really is a non negotiable for me at this stage because it's been ongoing for such a long time, is meditation. So, walking, adding in health, and meditating, they're my foundations. When I'm talking about going for a walk, I like to think with a little bit of a kind of a grey area, right? Some people really work well with, I have to discipline myself to do this. I've said that I'm going to do it every single day, or I'm going to go 5 kilometers or to that lamppost or X amount of steps, X amount of distance, X amount of time. It has to be 45 minutes, whatever. It's too much of that all or nothing thinking for me. And that's where so much damage is done. So when we're thinking about our ideal amount of movement, sure, I'd love to go for a walk every single day, but lo and behold, life is going to happen, right? Like my kids are going to get sick. Um, I might get sick, we run late, work gets busy, there's just no time in a day. Like there's just going to be days. There is going to be days where it's not fathomable, or there's going to be days where I'm just too tired and unable. So if it's a day that it's just not going to happen, what can happen there is we jump on that kind of catastrophizing mindset, that all or nothing thinking, well, I didn't do it today, so stuff it. I'm just not going to do it then. And that, well, that you stay on that trajectory and you don't achieve your goals. Also, if we say, I'm going to push myself to do it because I set myself this goal and I have to show up for myself every day and I have to achieve this goal. And you just have a day where you're actually just really tired and what you need is rest. Well, if you push yourself to do something when your body really doesn't want to do it, you're going to end up resenting it. You'll hate it. And then you'll dislike the activity altogether and you'll never want to do it again. So just being a lot more fluid in your approach, like, okay, I want to aim to get out for a walk 5, 6 times a week. Then that way, if it happens 5 times, you're happy. If it happens six, maybe it might even happen seven, you're happy. If it only happens four, you've given yourself a bit of grace. There would be a reason. If you find that you said that you wanted to do it and then you continually don't do it, that's when you need to reassess and think, right, well, why am my needs not a priority in my life? Why am I never making time for myself? Why am I never showing up for myself? So again, it's about that balance. It's about the fluid. It's about the grey, not the black and white. In an ideal world, I would love to do this this amount of times, and I'm kind of aiming to be in that bracket. And that's when you're on track. So for me, a non-negotiable is trying to get in a walk most days. And when I say a walk, I mean something that I actually enjoy. For me, I used to love walking when before I had kids. Like it was something that I would deliberately walk to work instead of take public transport. I would come home and go for a walk at night. My husband and I would go for a walk or a run together. Um, then we got the dog, and we thought, well, that's great because we love walking, so it's going to get walked all the time. But life got busy. We had full-time jobs and the dog. So, taking the dog for a walk became another thing to do. And then came along the kids, and it was right. Well, they have to go in the pram to sleep at whatever time of the day. So the dog needs to get the walk, the baby needs to get a sleep. Then you've got the toddler in tow who walks at snail's pace, which doesn't really feel like it's a walk benefit for me. 5 years in now, my walks have become for the dog and the kids, and often we're stopping to sniff trees, the dog, or pick up rocks, the kids. And it's just another thing that I have to do in a day. So I don't enjoy it the same. So trying to get the love for something back, which means going by myself and giving myself permission to do that and setting boundaries with other family members and friends to say, hey, do you mind just taking over for half an hour because I need to do this for me? And my mental health is significantly up. My level of calm is up, my dopamine is up. I've had that time out, I've decompressed, I've thought about the world all over and everything that's going on, and come back with solutions to my own problems because I've given myself some thinking space and breathing space, not having a dog lead pull this way and a toddler pull that way and a pram push that way. Side note, I also broke my foot last year, and that really, I was out of action for about 6 weeks, and I assumed that I could get back into walking and everything the day the boot came off. That wasn't the case. If you ever end up in a moon boot, don't skip the rehab part. I ended up with an extremely painful hip because about, I think it was the week that my boot came off, I went for a 2.5 hour hike carrying a toddler on my hip with a dog pulling on the lead. And when you're in the boot, it's like wearing one high heel and one flat shoe at the same time. So your back is constantly out of alignment. And to go from walking like this for 6 weeks to this and in rugged terrain wasn't wise. And I've ended up with a really bad hip injury that's taken me months to get on top of. So I am just slowly getting back into walking, and I'm getting back into it for myself, not because it's another chore, another thing that I have to do for someone else in a day. So that is a non-negotiable in my foundations of working on my mental health. I need to get out at least half an hour most days to just help me feel like I'm doing something for me, and something that I used to really enjoy before it became a chore, and something that I'm not going to resent, because I did love it. So that's non-negotiable number one. Number two is adding a health element. I'm going to say health food, but that is a bit grey area in itself. Mainly a vegetable or something that I think is within my vision of health to every meal. I was pregnant because I just didn't really feel like eating all the health foods that I previously were eating. I just wanted really bland crackers, crisps, bread. And then I was like, I'm kind of trying to grow a human here. This might not be the best diet. This is the best strategy. So I started trying to get the health in. And I'm not about taking anything out whatsoever. That is not the way I work. But I'm bringing things in. So I'm going to put some images, examples of the foods that I've been eating. So if I'm having a cheese sandwich, I add some cucumber, and it's the cheese and cucumber sandwich. If I'm having yogurt, I'll add some nuts and seeds and maybe some berries or whatever. Just what can I add to this meal to make it look more healthful? The other day, I just had to have a bit of toast and butter because it was a really rush day with the kids, getting them out the door, getting them to daycare. But it was fine because I had a handful of cashew nuts and raspberries, and I was like, cool, brought the health in. If I'd only eaten the toast, I would have felt like I was kind of letting myself down. Like it's a missed window of opportunity to get nutrition and health in. So I actually really love that because it's, well, definitely the focus is on bringing things in instead of taking them out. And also, it can be a bit creative to kind of think, oh, there's a meal, that's just what I feel like. Wait a minute, I need to add something to that. What's going to look good? What's going to taste good? What's going to be crunchy? What's going to complement it? What's going to make it more colorful? And there's a real level of creativity to that. So, Yeah, and that means I know that I'm fueling my body correctly. I am getting health in, I'm getting nutrients in. I can't function properly if I'm having like toast and biscuits and tea and coffee and just not very nutrient dense foods. I feel in myself that I am thriving so much better when I'm getting in so much more varied nutrition. So, by looking at my plate and thinking, what's one thing I can add that's going to make me feel better, that's going to make me have more vitality, that's going to help my energy levels, my sleep, whatever, I need the nutrition in. I don't care. I'm not cutting out carbs, I'm not cutting out chocolate. I've got no time for any of that rubbish. But if I'm going to have that stuff, I at least need to have the good stuff with it. So, yeah, we're every meal, I think, where's an opportunity to bring something in here. And meditating, again, this one started when I was pregnant with my first, because I did hypnobirthing, which to be fair went out the window on the day. But it was a really nice practice that I got into during the pregnancy. And my routine was obviously very different. I couldn't go out with my friends, people were going out dinner and drinks, and it just wasn't sitting with me at that time. So I found something to fill that void, which was meditating. And now it has just stuck. So it's not really something I'm trying to get back into. I'm probably just trying to be more intentional with it. Um, I cannot go to sleep at night without listening to something. So I know it's a non-negotiable that I will achieve, that I will continue to meditate, because it's a foundation, it's a habit, it's stuck. But I think maybe I can start to incorporate it a bit more. Even I'm not too fussy about who I listen to. I do have some of my favorites, but yeah, even just, do I need a mindful minute between the kinder drop off and coming home and starting my work? Do I need to listen to something while I'm on the dog walk, which is separate from my personal walk, to help me feel like I'm regulating and getting more from that moment? Yeah, I just need to be a bit more intentional about how I use it, and the getting the health in with the nutrition one. Yeah, I did that while I was pregnant, but then it just fell off the radar afterwards. It's not something I've been that intentional about. So I'm going to have to really try with the walking. I'm going to have to really try with the getting the health in. And the meditating, I'm hoping I'm just going to expand on. So these are my foundations. These are my non-negotiables over the next 12 weeks. I am going to be doing these regardless of everything else that I'm doing. So um, it's establishing those habits so that it's so routine and it's so second nature that you're never thinking about it. It just becomes a natural habit, a natural way of life. So when you're setting your foundations, they need to be things that are achievable, actually enjoyable, something that you genuinely like, and small. Just not easy, because all change is hard, but um, definitely achievable. Okay, and I know these three for me are going to be. It feels fun, and I can feel the effect already. So if that's even my baseline, these are my foundations. These things that come 3 weeks, I'm not thinking about it. This week I've had to think about it. I've had to be really intentional. But in 3 weeks' time, I don't want to have to think about that. I just want to be able to do the rest of the work that I'm doing, meeting with some specialists and getting some extra tips and tricks way outside of my scope of knowledge to try and help me. And the foundations are just, I don't have to think about that. So week one is building those foundations and setting them in place. And honestly, I feel better already. I've definitely had stressful moments. On Saturday, we were running late to a kid's birthday party, and I could not catch my breath because I hate the thought of being late. And people always say, you've always got the power of your breath, power over panic, and no coping strategies I was using were working. I just couldn't calm myself down. I was so stressed. And my husband literally had to say to me, Lisa, you're not going to your own wedding. It's a kid's fifth birthday party in a playground. Like, if you can be 5 minutes late, it's not a big deal. But for me, I really couldn't. So these are my foundations. And given that level of anxiety and stress, I know that's something I'm going to need to work on. So I'm going to look for a specialist who can support me and give me tips and tricks and follow along. We'll see what the rest of this journey looks like for me.